Hello, I'm Andrew McNair with the BBC News. The leaders of the United States, South Korea and Japan have accused China of dangerous and aggressive behaviour in the South China Sea. The assertion was made in a joint statement issued at a summit hosted by President Biden at Camp David outside Washington. Mr Biden hailed the summit as a new era in partnership between the three countries.
America's commitment to both countries is ironclad. Your leadership, with the full support of the United States, has brought us here because each of you understands that our world stands at an inflection point, a point where we're called to lead in new ways, to work together, to stand together. And today I'm proud to say our nations are answering that call.
The three leaders have agreed to set up a hotline between them and to hold annual summits. The South Korean President, Yoon Suk-yeol, said it would be remembered as the day when ties between them were put on a firm institutional basis. Barbara Pledusher is in Washington.
Although the U.S. had these mutual defense treaties with both of the countries, it was really difficult, maybe even impossible, to get serious security cooperation amongst the three. And that was a big deal for the U.S. Because it sees Japan and South Korea as crucial to countering Chinese assertiveness and North Korea's nuclear threat. The aim is to not only show how important the Americans think this is, but also to reinforce the diplomatic weight behind the relationship and the agreements that are reached. So analysts are saying that achieving this agreement does mark a strategic shift in the region.
The British government has ordered an independent inquiry into how a nurse came to murder 7 newborn babies in her care and tried to kill another 6. Lucy Letby was found guilty after a trial in Manchester which lasted 10 months. Outside court, Inspector Nicola Evans from Cheshire Police said the victims' families had gone through a terrible ordeal.
I cannot begin to imagine how the families in this case feel today. I just hope that today's verdicts bring all of them some peace of mind for the future and that we have answered some of the questions that they were looking for. There will be a period of reflection as everybody comes to terms with what they've experienced here today.
The inquiry will consider why concerns raised for months by doctors who worked with her were not taken seriously by managers at the hospital. Residents of the remote northern Canadian city of Yellowknife, which is threatened by a huge wildfire, have been scrambling to leave, with an official deadline to evacuate now passed. The Canadian authorities stepped up emergency flights to the town on Friday. Long lines of cars have formed along a single main road connecting Yellowknife to Alberta province, 12 hours drive from to the south. Many of the 20,000 residents are reported to have left as Canada's worst ever wildfire season continues. That's the latest world news from the BBC. Leaders of the military police force in the Brazilian capital have been arrested on allegations of collusion with supporters of the former president Jair Bolsonaro, who stormed government buildings on January the 8th. Our America's regional editor Leonardo Rocha reports.
Among those arrested are Brazilia's current police commander, Clepter Gonçalves, and his predecessor, Fábio Vieira, who occupied the post on January the 8th. The Supreme Court said the 2 men and 5 other officers targeted by the operation either failed to act or encouraged the demonstrators, who had been camping in and around the Brazilian capital for weeks. They were calling for a military coup following Mr. Bolsonaro's electoral defeat. For hours, they vandalized the presidential palace, the Congress building, and the Supreme Court before the security forces intervened.
An Italian general has been sacked after writing a book in which he attacked feminists and immigrants and said that homosexuals were not normal. Roberto Vannacci insisted that he hadn't expected such a strong reaction to the book, which he has said expressed his thoughts. However, the Italian defence minister condemned what he called the general's personal ramblings, warning that they discredited the country's armed forces. Hundreds of activists converged on Israel's newly opened light railway in Tel Aviv to protest against the government's refusal to allow trains to run on the Sabbath. Observant Jews don't work from sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday, but their secular compatriots say transport services should operate all week. Some of the protesters handcuffed themselves to the train's handrails. And England's Football Association says the Brazilian international Lucas Paquetá is being investigated for potential betting breaches. Reports say the FA and the game's world governing body FIFA are looking into allegations of irregularities involving bets placed by Paquetá's relatives in Brazil. Last week, Manchester City offered $90 million for the midfielder. That's the latest BBC News.